Welcome to Life as God Intended. I'm Don, and you've caught me this morning in my kitchen. I'm going to cook up some victuals here. So, behind every door of many homes is the reality of hardships and challenges. You know, the secret things that happen that few of us want anybody else to know about. It's the secrecy of our home. A tremendous story of the hardships behind our four walls of our home is told of Susanna Wesley, who was born in January of 1669 in London, England. Yeah, that's a long time ago. That's before, running water and electricity. We would think of that as pretty primitive. And Susanna was married to a preacher. Are you ready for this, ladies? She had 19 children. Yeah, 19 children, 10 of which died in infancy. Now, she's known because of two of her children. Two grew up to bring millions of souls to Christ. And that would be her boys, John and Charles Wesley, that you may be familiar with. John was a circuit riding preacher that covered Europe and even came to the States and preached the gospel. And Charles wrote over 8,000 hymns. And until just a few years ago, many of our hymn books had some powerful hymns that were penned by John. Now that's a powerful story if you stop right there, isn't it? Susanna Wesley gives birth and raises two powerful men of God, two preacher boys that bring millions to Christ. But as we began this morning, behind the door of many homes, and certainly her home, was quite another story. She experienced helpless conditions. And frankly, it was her norm. To start with, she was married herself to a man that couldn't manage money. And he also was a preacher, which didn't make things any better. And he didn't know how to take care of finances. And what made things even worse is that they disagreed on everything from money to politics. And her husband, Sam, often would leave her to raise the children alone for lengthy periods of time over some of these arguments that they would have, which made things even worse. To compound to her issues that she struggled with, she had a child that was handicapped, that had special needs that she had to care for, actually crippled. And another child, another one of her children, had a speech impediment and couldn't talk until nearly 6 years old. So all these things added responsibility and pressure to her life. Not to mention that Susanna herself was desperately sick most of her life. And because of the financial pressures that they experienced, there was often no money for food or for basic essentials. Debt plagued their marriage for almost the entirety of their marriage. In fact, Sam at one time was actually thrown into debtor's prison because the debt was so high and he couldn't pay, and that just created greater pressures and problems at home. Twice, their home that they lived in caught on fire and burned to the ground and they lost everything that they had. And later on, one of their teenage daughters became pregnant out of wedlock, and the man was nowhere to be found and obviously didn't want to marry her. So that was just another added responsibility for Susanna to help her daughter raise that child. So you can see the helpless situation that she faced. And yet through it all, Susanna was a woman of prayer. Having that kind of a circumstance, however, you might imagine that raising all those kids and taking care of all those responsibilities, she had no time for her own interests or pleasure. She certainly didn't have time for long hours in prayer, between tilling the garden and milking the cow and schooling the children and managing the entire household. She had very little time to spend alone with God. And so it was Susanna's practice that regardless of where she was, whether it was in the garden or in the kitchen or just taking care of the chores, changing a diaper or whatever, when Susanna sensed kind of feeling overwhelmed, it was her custom to take her apron. And she would take that apron and she would stop wherever she was and she would place that apron over her head. And when she did so, the children knew that Mom was taking a moment with Jesus, that she was quieting her heart and praying, listening, hearing what Father had to encourage her with in the chaos that she found herself. So let me encourage you today that in the midst of your hopeless situations and circumstances, don't let those things define you. I know we're tempted to, but that's not who you are. You have the indwelling presence of Christ as your life. Allow Him to define you. Take a moment and put your spiritual apron, as it were, over your head, right in the midst of whatever you find yourself, allowing the Lord to draw you to the heart of God, under the secret place of the Most High, in the shadow of the Almighty, putting your spiritual apron on over your head and allowing you to draw near to the grace in that moment of difficulty. So why not remember that today? And in your moment of need, get your spiritual apron. Take advantage of it. Quiet your heart in your spirit where you're one with Christ. And as the psalmist said, be still and know that I am God. That He's not only with you, but He indwells you every moment of every day. Until next time, may you experience life as God intended. Now I've got to get to my cooking. We hope you were encouraged and blessed by this video. We would love to have your feedback and interact with you. If you have a testimony that relates to today's discussion, please share it below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that each time we upload a video that you'll be notified. Be sure to check out our blog on our website, which is in the description below. And until next time, may you experience life as God intended.